got 2 minutes. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Livermore. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all you do for our community and our club. Trex Donovan, I see you way back there. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Trex.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Songsters.
Okay, well, since we have Carl Wente here with us, it's time for another... Eric Wente, excuse me, I apologize. Okay, well, very good. My apologies. In any case, Mr. Wente is here, and so it's time for another wine song. I happen to have a modest example here. You know the melody, The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, but the words are new. Hopefully let's play along here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am just a poor boy, so I buy the stuff that's cheap, from generic cherry cola to stale bread and meat that's past its sell-by date. But what the heck, when you're working in the valley
Where else do you get songsters as good as these? Amen. And I see Susan coming up, and I think Susan's going to give us a thought for the day. Susan, the mic is all yours. Good for you.
Okay, this is the first time I've done this for quite a few years, and I feel really nervous, especially as I lost one page of my notes, and Brian has been even more nervous and made me more nervous. So anyway, here we are. So I'm going to be talking about our program of sort of informal links with other countries. And this has been very important to me all through these years. One of the reasons is because of the family I grew up in, which contained, let's see, Danish, English, Spanish, Egyptian, Jewish. I could go on quite a bit, but I'm sure you don't want me to. So anyway, but it made me think, of course, of other countries and of people in other countries and how they're normally very normal, just like us. Anyway, and then we came here and I heard about Rotary. Can't remember how that was. But I immediately noticed that it was Rotary International, and that international word caught me. My sponsor was Dave Lowell, who came to my bookstore and bought a lot of books and also wanted to sell me advertising. Anyway, Dave Lowell's wife was South African, and Dave was heavily involved in projects concerning foreign interactions, and one being the International House weekend, when students from International House in Berkeley came out for the weekend and explored Livermore, from the City Hall and police station to the lab and the wineries, of course, which they very much enjoyed. And anyway, have a potluck dinner with club members and spending the night in people's homes. And he pulled me up in being my sponsor. After only a week or so, the International House weekend came up, and he pulled me into that. And until the last 2 years, I think I, and then Ryan, when he became a Rotarian, were part of that. It's been a wonderful time. We've met so many people from so many countries, and we've learned so much and had so much fun. We hosted friendship exchanges, which seem to have disappeared, with foreign clubs, and we enjoyed their hospitality. We have a guest book full of names and full of nice messages and greetings. We had high school students staying in our homes and went to our schools. Our students went to theirs, and some of them said it was the most important year of their lives. There are other things Rotarians do. Go to meetings in foreign countries, talk to people, mention you're a Rotarian, follow up on signs and notices. I got an invitation to a dinner, no, it was a lunch, I think, in India, because I noticed a notice on a jewelry store and was immediately asked to a meeting. So many Rotarians do so much for their professions. Goud has been a tremendous person in dealing with foreign affairs here. There's so many other people. There's Pat Coyle, Paul Moorhead, sorry, not Paul Moorhead, Paul Thompson, of course. Sorry, Paul. And anyway, let's see who else. We had TJ, who helped build a small village in another area in India. Pat Coyle was busy in Belize, I think it was, and probably many other places. So very active Rotarians, and it's fun doing these things too. In New Zealand, we attended a meeting in Timaru, which is in a beautiful room with a modern, beautiful white sort of patterned ceiling and white tablecloths, a lot, very formal. And it was very nice. People were very nice to us. Then, at a small lakeside resort, which was surrounded by vineyards, there was a Rotary meeting next to a bar where the president arrived barefoot, beer in hand, and the conversation was pretty animated. We went twice. I fear for the future of our international social projects here. Although Brian and I have received messages already, I said, Brian and I have received messages from two young relatives of ours, one in Denmark, one in Britain, each saying, first of all, that they would really like to come and visit us in their, what's it called, their gap year between school and college. And just recently, they wrote to us saying that they were not coming to USA after all. I fear it may be difficult to continue our student exchange programs for now, and maybe other programs too. Let's try to preserve some of them and try to devise others. They've been inspiring and very worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. Wonderful thought for the day, especially in these times and circumstances. So next up, meeting front line, we have Trudy Barnes, Spur reporter. Very versatile today, Trudy. Some extras, Trudy Barnes, Spur reporter. Spur publisher, Don Wentz. Don Wentz, photographer. Wow, yeah. Audiovisual, Dennis O'Brien. Mary and Don Sweeney, greeters. Is that right? Yeah. More frontliners. We have Sergeants Peck and Beck, Gateway Guardians back.
No back. No back.
No,
We're one back.
no back, just Peck.
It's a round pack.
Next up, Web Wonder, of course, Kathy Coyle. Public Outreach, Kelly Bowers. Videographer, Sonia Sheffield.
All right.
Good job. Thank you. And next up, new member talk with Barbara Limberis. Barbara?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Barbara Limberis. I'm going to put my water down here. And this is my life in 7 bullet points, illustrated with songs. So we're going to keep the music going today. I was born in Buffalo, New York. Off we're gonna shuffle, shuffle off to Buffalo. But my parents were very smart. My dad was a psychology professor, my mother was an elementary school teacher, and they very quickly moved us out of Buffalo over to the Midwest, and I really grew up in Wichita, Kansas. And that's where I discovered my love of music and theater. My parents were very involved in community theater, always. And so I sort of grew up in that milieu. And when I was a senior in high school, I was lucky enough to be cast as Mame in Mame, And my brother, 6 years younger, so at that time he was probably 10, right? He was young Patrick, and my mother was over the moon. She came to every single performance. You coax the blues right out of the horn, Maine. You drawn the husk right off of the corn, Maine. Well, fast forward to Boston Conservatory of Music, where I got my bachelor's in voice and spent 2 years traveling up and down the East Coast with a show band, and we played mostly the Playboy clubs. We did, which was great because the clubs are gorgeous and they were very, very good to us. And I also was part of a theater group that was performing abridged versions of musicals on the Boston ferries. I don't know if you've ever been to Boston, but they go all around the city just like the ones in New York. Oh, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unknown. He will ride to wherever, neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. I was going to ask if anybody knew the name of that song. In 1978, I arrived in California. Do you know the way to San Jose? Yes, I know the way. In 1982, I got my master's degree in opera performance. In 1983, I met my husband, Nick, and we sang together for many years. He was an attorney, and I managed his law firm for 10 years, but mostly what we were doing was singing. And we sang with Opera San Jose, with Theater Works, with San Jose Stage Company, with Foothill Music Theater, South Bay Musical Theater, San Jose Civic Light Opera, and on and on and on. And the show that we loved the most and did together was Guys and Dolls, as Nathan and Adelaide. If you see a guy reach for stars in the sky, you can bet that he's doing it for some doll. And we worked together for many, many years when I was managing his law firm. Together, wherever we go. And we started our long association with stray kitties. And we have 5 now. 5. Midnight, not a sound from the pavement. And where is that from? Yes, cats. We married in 1986, and a few years later, I left the law firm to go into high-tech marketing and public relations. And in 1999, we took a huge detour and moved to Manhattan. New York, New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. And the business venture didn't work out, so we moved back to San Jose 5 days before 9/11. California, here I come, right back where I started from. And we went into real estate. When I think of home, I think of a place where there is love overflowing. And we've had 25 years as a real estate team. We have our own independent brokerage. It's called Perfect Harmony Properties. And yes, music, music, music. And we've sold hundreds of homes for buyers and sellers. I was the president of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors in 2012. And I was Realtor of the Year in 2015 and the President's Choice Award in 2023. And I am currently the federal political coordinator for Zoe Lofgren, who is the Congresswoman from District 18. You may have seen her all over the news lately. Politics and poker, shuffle up the deck and mind the joker. We moved to Livermore in 2018, bought a home here, met lots of new friends, joined the board of the Livermore Valley Opera, and by the way, we are doing a fundraiser on December 5th with Frank D'Ambrosio at the Banquet Theater. It's going to be a fabulous show. Have you seen Phantom of the Opera? Frank D'Ambrosio is the longest running Phantom of any of those Phantoms when that show was in its heyday. Thousands of performances, and he does a wonderful show. And you'll be helping out Livermore Valley Opera. So run out and get your tickets. lvoopera.com. I worked at the Independent newspaper, and I worked at the Chamber of Commerce. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, and joined Rotary. You gotta have heart. All you really need is heart. And here I am with you today, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
This is the very first singing new member talk I've ever heard since I joined Rotary, and it's fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, that was adorable.
Okay, introduction of visiting Rotarians. Do we have any visiting Rotarians today? Any guests of Rotarians? Imagine we do.
I have one.
And we have a roving mic.
Yes, we do.
Great.
I have a guest. Rick has visited us a few times, and he's actually checking out Rotary. He has been to the other club. But, you know, he keeps coming back here. Anyway, this is Rick Vesnes, correct? Vesnes. Yes, he's retired, and he, I think we're wooing him. Are we? How are we doing? Are we doing okay? No pressure. There you go. All right, let's welcome Rick.
Great to have you here, Rick.
Have somebody in the back.
So, President Pat, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce for the second time my wife, Diane.
Hi,
My wife of 43 years.
Welcome. Get David. Get David. No, we should get David here. Like your adopted child.
President and Rotarians and guests, it's my honor to welcome Trevor Dilling. He's from Senator McNern's office.
Welcome, Trevor. Any other guests? Great. I'd like to have Bob Cowan come up. We have a special presentation that Bob will give to the club. I'll hand this off to you, Bob.
This weekend at my house on Sunday, we had a meeting, kind of a mini meeting of the board of directors of Quantichem. And you all know Quantichem treats burn children in Latin America from kind of Mexico south with their main offices in Chile. And over the years, our club, both the club itself and members in the club have donated a lot of money to Quantichem. And we were presented a trophy as being one of the top Rotary clubs in the United States. The founder of Quantichem is a Rotarian in the city of Santiago, past president. This guy does everything. And just to remind you why we give money to Quantichem, when a child is born they go to the emergency room, get treated. That ain't it. It takes 10 to 12 years of continuous treatment while the child is growing to treat those wounds so they don't come out disfigured. They used the example, one of the main things that kids do is put their hands on the stoves that sit in the middle of their not great houses and get their hands burned. And if they don't get treated, their hand winds up with a claw. It takes 10 to 12 years of continuous treating so they have a normal hand at the end of when they become adults. So thank you so much for your continuous support.
Thank you very much. Paul Thompson, I think you have a few announcements to make. Alan Burnham, I'm sorry.
Well, let me speak for 2 seconds. Okay, 5 seconds. As many of you know, that I'm a part of a group that own, we call it the Carmel Penthouse, and there are 7 of us with sharing 8 shares, and we have this for a week every 2 months. Because of Mike Morgan's kind generosity to me, he gave me a few days in his place down in where is it, Mike?
In Newport.
Newport Beach. And that overlaps with my place in Carmel. So I've decided in both our names here to auction off the Carmel place, it's 1 week beginning on the 11th of December. That's a Thursday for 7 nights and 7 days. And so I'm auctioning it off to the highest bidder. It's going to be at least $1,500, which is still a deal. I will take emails and I will do it in the order they come in. But if anybody wants to give me $2,500 now, I will take that, and we won't have to do the auction. And half of the money is going to go to the Nepalese Children's Fund, and the other half will go to whatever the person who buys it, whatever they choose it to go to. So, does anybody want to give me $2,500 today? Okay, I'll wait for an email.
Next, Alan Burnham.
Yeah, next slide. So last week, JR, I was not here, apparently convinced 20 of you to join the President's Club, and there were examples of checks. There, thanks to Kathy Coyle, there is also an electronic donation option, and it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. One is, you see the red circle box that says President's Club? That's number 1. If you click on number 1, you'll see this thing here, and that tells you the 3 places, the electronic links for each of the 3 components of the President's Club. For the clubs, if you click here, it comes up with a square donation where you can fill out $100, or you can pay by Zelle at our email address. Now, the one advantage of paying by Zelle is that you save 3.5% of the fee that Square collects. So this is a way of making your money go a little bit further. Anyway, this is an alternative for those of you like me whose hand is incapable of writing checks. You can just click a few buttons and you'll be done. And I would like to steal a little bit from Mark. I think the foundation of Livermore is going to be taking the money from number 1. This one.
Yes.
So,
All right.
Next up, Mark has the Rotarians' call to action to present to us.
All righty. There we go. So we're all aware that the federal government has essentially not been paying its employees for the past month in most cases. In addition, contractors, those related to those projects, and a whole variety of people, about overall 10% of the total population in the Livermore Valley now is no longer receiving paychecks. In addition, starting at the beginning of the month, those who are on essentially SNAP and the related programs funded by the state and federal governments are receiving roughly half of what they are doing. Local food banks reached out to a couple of us who were Rotarians and noted
that they are in a situation they've never faced before. They've been in situations where the demand was dramatic, and they've been able to gear up for that over time. They're in the position of having to turn people away, and that's just the thing that they don't ever want to be at. And so they reached out to several of us who were Rotarians, Beth in the Morning Club, myself, and asked whether there was something that Rotary wanted to do. The Rotarian Foundation of Livermore, which you all own a part of, that is our foundation, had a meeting yesterday and committed to essentially our 3 local, next slide there, local main food banks. So these 3 organizations, City Serve, Open Heart Kitchen, and Tri-Valley Haven, provide the vast bulk of the meals that are served in Livermore. Their demand has more than doubled. It's on its way to tripled. And their funding, as you realize, has been cut because some of their funding is pass-through funding. So they're in sort of the unenviable position of having way more customers and way fewer dollars to do that with. And so the foundation yesterday at its board meeting committed to giving $25,000 each to each of those 3 in a partnership with the clubs. The Morning Club beat us to the punch there, and they'd already had their board meeting and their meeting. And so the split will essentially be half from the clubs and half from the foundation. So we're looking to raise $37,500 from the clubs. If you do the math, for us, we're a little bigger than the Morning Club, just over $20,000. Now, I've spoken to President Pat, and he is going to call a meeting of our board to allocate some of our resources that aren't spoken for this. And what I want to do right now, however, is allow those of you who want to contribute to this cause. And so we're going to make it really easy. And so that means go on to the Rotarian Foundation, that's our local one, Rotarian Foundation of Livermore, and give an unrestricted gift in November. And the board has said every unrestricted gift that comes into November will be placed toward this cause and matched. So all you have to do is literally write a check, have your donor fund, give a unrestricted dollars to that, and the foundation will match it dollar for dollar. So, and between the Morning Club, our club, the 2 club boards, and the Rotarian Foundation, we have agreed to backstop to give at least $25,000 to each of those 3 folks, entities that provide food today. Now, a number of you have given directly to these organizations. And first of all, I want to say, bless you. You're out in front. You're doing God's work, and those folks need every penny that you have given them. And all of you have contributed through the foundation and through your club dues to the dollars that the board will ultimately be able to allocate. So first of all, thank you. You all have given, and we are on our way to sort of being amazing in being able to do this. A number of you have also reached out to me and said, what could I personally do to help with this effort? And so I'm going to allow you, over the next 120 seconds, to sort of put your hand up and commit to giving money to the foundation. So all of these will go directly to the foundation. You can do it right on your phone now. You could write a check. You can contact your donor advised fund to send dollars. All of those things work. Or you can rest assured that you've already given, whatever setting that is. So Jay, I'm going to pick on you because you told me that you were going to sign up for $2,500. Is that true?
Yes.
So we're going to start off with $2,500. Anybody else at that level? All right, moving on. We're going to say thank you and sit down. Is that thank you? That was the last one.
Maybe I can say this before. I want to say one thing.
Very good.
Welsh say there are people that have thieves' luck. Mark has thieves' luck. At 5:15 yesterday, I was headed down the stairs to talk to Mary about where we're going to give money for the rest of the year.
And at 5:16,
and the phone rang,
yes.
And he says, and no, it is. He names organizations that we give money to, and I evaluating projects for Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance, read all their proposals all year. So here's $2,500 to whoever takes checks.
I will do that.
And thank you so much.
For the rest of you who didn't bring a check, I'm looking, anybody willing to commit to $1,000 up there? Ooh, okay, so Sheila, so I'm raising my hand for me, so that's Mark, and Pat's raising his hand for Pat. Okay. Call up names as you see them, and then when you hear your name called, put your hand down.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes,
Dennis,
in just a second.
Mary.
Gowd. I got
Paul Thompson.
I got Dale, Paul Thompson. Okay.
And Carol Howell.
And Carol.
Very good. So in addition to when we're done here, the board is going to meet. Pat has said we're going to have a meeting, and we are going to backfill. But we're going to have one question from Kathy. Yes? No one's going to give her a microphone. Yes, sure.
Okay. So this is, as you know, this is the time of year where people who are old like Pat and me do QCDs on retirement. So we've already scheduled one for the Rotary Foundation.
It will count.
It will count.
You've already given. You're a winner every time. And if you committed to $100 in last week to give it, that counts. So all of those things count. How about $500? Is that more people's speed? Got a couple here, Alan. And we have, and Brian and Sue are both. That's two, so get them twice. Yeah. All right. And who else is in the back there? All right. Got Paul. And all the way in the back, Kimberly. Jennifer?
I got Jennifer.
All right, and $100. Who's up for $100? Okay. So call off some names here, President Pat. Here, who we got?
Okay.
Niall. Gosh, even one of our guests is given.
Jim.
All right. Kimberly. All right. Our new member Talk. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Stu. I'm sorry, Stu. I got Jim, and then who was, let's see, Barbara.
Paul Spence. And Clark. Thank you all. So I do want to be very clear. We will at least hit that $75,000 between the hopefully the board. I mean, the board I think can see broad support here. We'll actually have the meeting and the vote later, so we'll know for sure. But the Rotarian Foundation is committed to standing behind this. So we will be contacting those three organizations and guaranteeing that they will get a check for at least $25,000. And that money will go out on the 19th of November. So it will get there soon. So thank you very much for your generosity, both that you've given before, that you've given as a part of the club, and that you gave again today. People, you are truly people of action. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Paul, he's going to present. Gal, can we
need to move that.
Yeah. We'll move it to the next meeting.
Okay. It's a great pleasure for me right now, to introduce Eric Wente, who I think everybody knows in one form or another. Just before I start the introduction, I want to say thank you, Eric, for all the wine you've given our club for our various functions. So thank you. Eric is a fourth-generation wine grower from California's oldest continuously operated family-owned winery. He was responsible for Wente Vineyards' dynamic expansion into worldwide export markets beginning in the late 70s. Today, Wente wines are exported to more than 75 countries worldwide and is considered a leader in the export of ultra-premium wines. I can vouch for that. In 1991, when I was in Kathmandu, we were in a hotel, the Yak and Yeti, and we were able to have a bottle of, I forget which Chardonnay, but a bottle of your Chardonnay. This is 91 in Nepal. During his tenure at Wente Vineyards, Eric, with the support of the winery's staff, updated their winemaking practices by implementing innovative techniques and constructing state-of-the-art facilities. Under Eric's leadership, the estate implemented innovations like night harvesting, wine presses situated in the vineyards, sophisticated gentle dejuicing methods, and increased use of oak barrels for aging. All improvements that became incorporated into a winemaking system that combines the best of the traditional and the modern. From 2005 to 2006, Eric served as chairman of the Wine Institute's board of directors, the California Wine Industry's Public Policy Advocacy Association. He also served for many years as chairman of the Wine Institute's International Policy Committee and the Research and Education Committee. Additionally, Eric was the director of the Alameda County Fair Association for 12 years and served a term on the advisory board of the Export-Import Bank. Raised at the winery, Eric learned the art of winemaking from his father and grandfather. His interest in modern winemaking methods developed during his studies at Stanford University, where he majored in chemistry, and at the University of California at Davis, where he received a master's degree in food science, specializing in enology. Eric enjoys traveling, horseback riding, playing golf, and spending time at Lake Tahoe with his family. Eric and his wife, Errol, have 2 children, Christine and Carl, who are actively involved in the family business as 5th-generation wine growers, as well as 3 grandchildren, Gus, Claire, and Jackson. So, here he is, coming up.
Paul told me I had to speed it up a bit, and I think thank you for using up some of the time. I'm in better shape yet. So, Mike asked me to talk about the Livermore Valley and the wine business, and so I thought I'd throw out a few random thoughts on things and then leave some time for questions. So I'll start with a question and answer it, and the question is, what's the state of the wine business today? And it's difficult. Consumption of alcoholic beverage, wine, beer, and spirits is down. It's consistently down across all the sectors, and it's going to take a while for it to turn around. So at the moment, it's a difficult situation, and that comes back to the Livermore Valley as well. And you'll probably hear it around the community where some of the local growers are having a difficult time. So we all are doing our fair share. At 21, you need to start practicing harder. So that's the first thing. Then if you just think about the wine in California, that grapes came to California with the missions. So when you were part of the mission program and you came, they established a new location, a new mission, they came with like a starter kit. So you would have things to grow, the mission olive, which you could can it, you could use it for olive oil. Wasn't the best at either, but it worked. You had the mission grape. It was okay as fresh fruit. You could make raisins out of it okay, and you could make wine out of it okay, but none of it would you write home about. The mission fig, the big old fig trees, and you could dry the figs, you could can them. I don't think they canned at that time, but you could dry them and you could eat them fresh fruit. And so then in about 1820 or so in Los Angeles, the Cucamonga area is where the first commercial winemaking came in California. And then the combination of San Francisco Bay is basically the best ocean port from San Diego to Seattle. And so it took over for commerce, and then Mr. Sutter and the gold. And so that refocused to Northern California, the commercial activity in California really. And with that, there was a big demand for wine, and it was fortuitous because around Northern California, you can grow much better grapes, make much better wine than either Cucamonga or the Mission Fathers. So we lucked out there. And then being here in the Livermore Valley, east-west, so west of San Francisco, there's the ships. East is the Sierra Nevada, there's the gold. And so you had quite a through traffic during that time. And this whole valley originally was a land grant. And I think everybody's had the sort of school education of Robert Livermore married the daughter of the Bernal daughter, and then got into the land business. If you're driving out Tesla Road, if you go out South Livermore, just where it makes the bend to become Tesla, and you look there and you can see the line of trees on up, that's the corner point for the railroad versus the land grant around here. And so that side is all sections. This side is all land grant. Ride 3 days to the oak tree, ride 5 days to the oak tree. So Livermore was originally laid out as land grant, and that's one of the reasons why you see some of the odd shapes depending on which side of the line you're on. Then, before Prohibition, there was 15,000 acres of vineyard in Livermore. Livermore was, like, I think, this third largest producer of grapes. And then after Prohibition, it died down to nothing. I mean, there was 60, 70 wineries around the area, and then it went down to, in 1994, there were only 4. And we had 3 of them, which meant that the place was in a difficult situation, and from then till now, there's 50. So my brother set out that one of his main goals in life was going to be getting more wineries back in the Livermore Valley, and I think he did so. It's going to be tough for the next few years about how to hold on, but still in all, big step back. Then, in terms of placement and in history, Charles Wetmore, the Cresta Blanca winery, where our golf course and food experiences are now, Charles Wetmore was the first commissioner of agriculture for the state of California. And one of his jobs at that time was to go to France, in particular, and get known grape varieties. So get a cutting that's got a tag on it that says Cabernet, for example. That before that, tremendous number of immigrants coming to California, and on the last day at home, if it was the right time of year, you went out in the local vineyard and you made a few cuttings and wrapped them up in a wet towel or something, got them to California, and if you put them in the ground right side up, they grew up and became a grape. And then if you happened to come from Tuscany and it was red, you named it Chianti. And if you happened to come from Bordeaux and it was red, you called it Bordeaux. And so there were mostly generic names, and people didn't know what the grape varieties really were. So Wetmore went over and he brought back known grape varieties. And then where the Marietta's Well winery is today, that originally was built by a gentleman by the name of Louis Mel. And Louis Mel was an insurance salesman in San Francisco, and then is now the Samuel Clemens comment of "I spent the coldest winter of my life one summer in San Francisco" was true. And and commute times weren't so bad if you got the right ferry across and catch the right train, get off in Livermore, and your man knows to have the carriage here to pick you up, your wagon to take you out to your property, less than half a day. Bad traffic, it's the same thing. So you didn't really do it just for a short weekend, but it was clearly someplace where you could go and have a place to get out of the fog. And so Louis Mel came here, and Louis Mel's wife was the niece of the then Marquis L'Ursulus, which is the family that owned Chateau Yquem. So basically she wrote a letter, "Dear Uncle, please help Mr. Wetmore and send us some cuttings." So as a kid walking down to test the road to get on the school bus, we would walk through vineyards that were the original cuttings of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon that the Mel's got. So Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon into California, the pedigree comes from Livermore, comes from Chateau Yquem. The letter to Wetmore going to France, Cabernet comes from Margaux, and it came here first. And then the Kincanons propagated it, and then it went from there around. So when you're thinking about one of the primary bloodlines, shall we say, for Cabernet, it came through Livermore before it came through other places. In the Paris exposition of the Eiffel Tower, Charles Wetmore at Cresta Blanca won the Grand Prix for white wine. And so here's somebody from California before Prohibition winning the Grand Prix for the best wine. And before Prohibition, the Cresta Blanca winery was known as the best wine producer in California. So you can make good wine here, notwithstanding what the Sinaponomians might say. Then my grandfather was in the first class at UC Davis, 1908. He started, and he graduated in 1912, and decided that he wanted to do a Chardonnay vineyard. You know, how come, Bosh, you wanted to do that? Because, you know, when you asked him, I just wanted to do it. So there were about 4 or 5 Chardonnay vineyards in California, none of them over 10 acres. And he'd go around and look at the vineyard at harvest, taste the grapes, look at the health of the vines, and flag the good ones. Do that a couple of years, and take cuttings from the good vines, plant them himself, and do it again. And then he hit Prohibition, and so he had a lot of time on his hands where he wasn't really going to sell anything anyway. So he kept working at it. He also got his father to write a letter to the Montpellier University in south of France, who again would be a documented resource. So that if you sent to Montpellier and said, I wanted some Chardonnay cuttings from Beaune in Burgundy, they would get it and certify that it was correct. And so he got Chardonnay from there. And so he wound up creating his own Chardonnay vineyard. And we were the first shippers of both Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay in California after Prohibition as varietal wines. So that was a first for the Livermore Valley. Then as other wineries got interested in Chardonnay, he pretty much became the place to come. And so other winemakers and other grape growers would come and ask him for cuttings, and he'd sell it to them. And then finally by the 70s, when all of a sudden wine took off, and Chardonnay in particular took off, he laughed about that we bought a vineyard property down in Monterey, and we planted a lot of Chardonnay down there. And so we were making almost more money in some of those years from selling the cuttings off the Chardonnay vines than we were from the grapes that we had on them. And so at that point, by the time it's all done here, it's probably 70–75% of all the Chardonnay in California comes from my grandfather's work, either his first vineyards or the vineyards in Arroyo Seco. So he really was, notwithstanding, and this is probably soapboxing, I guess, a little bit, but he's probably the king of Chardonnay as opposed to anybody else in terms of who started it, who got it going, who identified what was the best thing to have in California. So you get to that, then here we are today, and at 4th generation, me and the kids, 5th generation, and the grandkids, 6th generation, we're still a family business. And so that's, for me, when people ask me what I think I've accomplished, probably my single biggest accomplishment, I think, is it's still in the family. I mean, that's what I spent most of my effort, really, is how do you keep it all in the family and keep it going. So that's probably a little bit of background about the first in, Livermore has a strong history. Livermore really was in at the beginning of when all of this started, and so here we are still today. Questions? Yes, sir.
When we moved here decades ago, Ray Riesling was the popular one, but I don't remember being a sweet wine, and I don't really know very much about its heritage.
Okay, so the box wine song, and when you were living with your parents and you were drinking good wine at dinner, you were probably drinking Grey Riesling. And Grey Riesling is also in France known as Trousseau Gris. Trousseau like a wedding set, and Gris, G-R-I-S. And I don't know how it got to be Grey Riesling. Could have been my Germanic great-grandfather didn't like Trousseau Gris, but it was Grey Riesling, and we produced a lot of it. And we sold a lot of it, and it was a very popular wine, a very good, easy drinking wine. It was a dry wine, and finally in the early 90s, the German Trade Council complained that we were stealing too much of the German Riesling market, and they wanted us to cease and desist. and otherwise they were going to embargo Boeing planes, and so we lost. So we don't make any Grey Riesling anymore. And the other wine that we used to make at the time was a Chenin Blanc called Le Blanc de Blanc. Okay. And we don't make that one anymore either, but we make a lot of Chardonnay still. So, other questions? Yes, sir. Well, okay, pass it in the back. Okay.
What happened to your champagne making?
What happened to our sparkling wine business?
I'm sorry, your sparkling wine business.
So, we can digress for a moment on that one, and that is that the French are interesting in that at times they want to be everything. So, if you look at a wine label, so it'll say Wente Vineyards, producer, got that, vintage, got that, and it'll say Chardonnay, okay, then that's the designation of the grape, what you can expect inside, then it'll say Livermore Valley, that's the appellation. So Champagne, the French want the Champagne term to be the appellation, and they want it to be the designation, and they don't want anybody else to use it. And my argument is that it should say Champagne sparkling wine. Champagne's an appellation, just to be argumentative on that one. Then what happened to our sparkling wine? The sparkling wine business is a very difficult business to be in, and unless you're some of the fancy French marks, it's Valentine's Day maybe, Mother's Day maybe, Christmas, New Year's a lot, in between not so much, and it's very price competitive. And we set out into the business, we got it going, we were doing quite a few cases, and then we looked at it and realized we're using Arroyo Seco, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir to do this, and we could sell the grapes as wine under our own Chardonnay and Pinot Noir labels for more money profit than we could as Champagne, sparkling wine. So we stopped doing it. We make it now, still it's available in the tasting room, but we are not doing a large production on it.
So you still make that wine?
Yes, it's still our grapes, we still make the wine, but it's only available at maybe 1,000, 1,500 cases a year in the tasting room. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what do you attribute the drop in consumption to, and what do you think is the path to correcting that?
Our club does a good job, so I'm so surprised.
So first of all, there aren't as many of us as there used to be, and we are excellent consumers. I think that right now there's a lot of pressure on healthy living. I think people lose sight of what healthy living is sometimes, and I think that as to keep on Samuel Clemens, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, so that you get a lot of the negative stories right now about alcoholic beverage consumption are sort of meta studies where it allows you to pick the answer you want. So I'll give you the sort of the point of view I have, and that is that let's say that you're a woman and you have, these are the wrong numbers, but you're a woman and you have a 1 in 50,000 chance of having a heart attack. And responsible moderate consumption, whether it's the physical effect, the calming effect overall, whatever, you can prove that you live longer. So let's say it goes from 1 in 50,000 to 1 in 100,000. So that's an improvement. And then if you have a 1 in 500,000 chance of breast cancer, and your breast cancer chance now goes to 1 in 250,000, that means you have a whole lot bigger percentage chance of breast cancer. But it's a percentage of what? And they never quite tell you how you risk manage and optimize what your exposures are. And so I think at the end of the day what it amounts to is responsible moderate behavior works. And generally it tends to be true that people that are wine drinkers are responsible moderate behaviorists. And so they're getting influenced at the moment by other things. Then if you're to troll a little bit, since I don't see anybody of the very younger generation. That if you imagine that you've got your Game Boy set up so that it automatically starts warming up at 5:30 at night, and you come in the door and you pop a gummy and put your stuff down and sit down at your Game Boy, and you're alone and relaxing, winding down and playing games, that's not a social event. Wine, beer, spirits, for the most part, they're social. People are socializing, and I think there's a whole lot less socializing in the younger generation than they don't. I mean, I watch my grandkids and they're going out on dates and stuff. The motivation to get a car isn't nearly as strong now as it was for me. I'll just leave it at that. So I see that happening, and then you also get that there's a heavy push through the World Health Organization, because the Islamic countries and the Scandinavian countries finance a whole lot of it, and they have a predisposition negatively to consumption. And so they sponsor all kinds of stuff that forces it down. And so the stuff tends to run in cycles. It's like prohibition. You know, the prohibition is the second largest failed social experiment in the 20th century to communism, which was the first. So that'd be sort of my take on it.
So why do you see it coming back?
Why do I see it coming back? I think that at the end of the day, the pendulums swing, or you can be President Lincoln, that you can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but not everybody every day. I think people will realize it. And I think that you wind up having, you know, ultimately people are social, and I think that it's part of being social. The other one, that just to raise it up, is this whole internet situation is just nuts. I mean, whether it's part of the reason why kids don't go out together anymore, or how you go about marketing wine by how many hits did you get. I mean, I'm not even sure what this stuff is, but it's definitely different than going into the store and talking to the retailer and tasting wine. And yes, sir, here's our wine, we'd like you to consider it, and if you've got people that come in, we'd like you to recommend it. And the whole thing was based on relationships. And now it's, you know, you've got to go online to order. I forget what I was trying to order this morning, and I was about ready to throw the iPad across the room, and then I call up, and I'm finding that my diction gets worse and my apparent comprehension gets worse when I'm on the phone, intentionally, because I act like I don't know what to do, and then they'll do it for me. But when I finally had it, I just got into parking the other day at a Stanford football game, pulled up to it, and I didn't know. So I pulled out my cell phone and I said, I bought season parking and season tickets, and I can't find them. Here, would you find them for me? Guy takes the phone, hands it back, says, just drive on. Well, just drive in and park. Just go. You know, so this is the type of situation we're living in today, that it's a fairly mixed up deal. So, yes, sir.
One of the things that you didn't have in your talk, but I understand that when phylloxera was rampant in Europe, that they used American grape stock, that rootstock. I think, is that true?
Okay, yes. So the question is a brief synopsis of phylloxera. So phylloxera is a root louse, and it gets in the soil and it eats on the fine little hairs of the root of the grapevine and makes it sick, and it'll kill it. And then you would like to have grapevines that have some resistance, so that the phylloxera doesn't eat all the hair off of the root tendrils, and or the phylloxera doesn't want to eat any of it because it doesn't taste good. Now, in New York and in the East, particularly like Concord grapes, the labrusca is the Vitis labrusca is the that's the genus, right? The species. My biology is not good on that. In any event, stuff grows in New York, and it's really cold tolerant. you can grow it in Buffalo. And it won't die in the winter in the snow in Buffalo. And so Europe, where a lot of Europe's cold, and they would like something that had better frost and freeze. So they thought, well, let's bring this back and see if we can start crossbreeding it. Well, at that time, they didn't know to look in the 5-gallon bucket of dirt that they put the vine in, and that had the root louse in it. And so they brought the root louse back to Europe, and the root louse went, oh, no known predators to us, let's go. And so it wiped out, 80–90% of the vineyards in Europe at one point. And so then to get back, what happens is like black walnuts and panes or white walnuts, where you plant the rootstock that has the best tolerance for what you want, and then you graft onto it the scion of what it is you want. And so at this point, there's quite a few different choices of rootstock depending on soil type. Do you have more nematode problems or phylloxera problems? All this stuff now is way past my pay grade. I haven't kept up. But the net effect is that they worked out rootstocks and then they started grafting onto it, but they hadn't the Chardonnay or the Cabernet anymore because it had died. And so it's the reverse Charles Whitmore. So they had to come over here and get cuttings off of Whitmore's cuttings and take them back there to get going again.
So they have American grapes.
Yes, we should make them labeled.
Well, so the Vitis vinifera, which is the grape species which we use for all the wines that we know, basically came from the Middle East. So it's been immigrating for a while. I mean, so it's the second or third wave of immigration. By the time it's here, then it goes back. The rootstock is, yes, a North American rootstock. That rootstock did not come from any place else in the world, and it didn't migrate until it was forced to try and counter the phylloxera.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. It's a very small token of our appreciation. It's a very small token of our appreciation. We'd like to present you with these Rotary Gas speaker mugs that you can enjoy with some coffee. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Ticket?
Special ticket.
Yes, it's $53 to pull the blue marble, and the last four numbers are 9295.
9295.
Nobody got it?
That's it?
9295. Wait, we might have to pull another one. Going once, going twice. That's it. Pull another number.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
9318.
9318. There we go.